You think you know the Ultramarines. You don't. The truth about them is far darker than the legend we've been told. For centuries, they've been painted as the golden paragons of the Imperium, the perfect soldiers who stand as the ultimate defenders of humanity. But what if that picture is nothing more than propaganda? What if everything you thought you knew about them was carefully crafted to serve a larger agenda? The Ultramarines are more than just heroes. They are symbols, tools of control, obedience, and order. And today, we're going to peel back the layers of that myth. Welcome to Chronicles of the 41st Millennium. Today, we venture into the heart of the Imperium, exploring the entire history of the Ultramarines, from their rise during the Great Crusade to the creation of the Codex Astartes and the pivotal role they played in the Horus Heresy. We'll uncover the cold truth behind the myth of the perfect soldiers and ask whether they truly stand as the heroes of humanity, or if they're simply tools of imperial propaganda. Along the way, we'll examine the legendary Roboute Guilliman, the rise of the Primaris Marines, and the controversies that have followed them throughout their history. Whether you're a seasoned Warhammer 40k veteran or a newcomer to the galaxy's darkest corners, this journey will force you to reconsider everything you thought you knew about the Ultramarines. Subscribe and hit the bell so you never miss a dive into the lore, and drop a comment below. Do you think the Ultramarines are true paragons of virtue or just tools of the Imperium? Let us begin. Long before the heresy, the Ultramarines were more than just another Space Marine legion. Under Roboute Guilliman's leadership, they became the backbone of the Emperor's Great Crusade. Guilliman's strategic brilliance and organizational prowess transformed the 13th Legion into a formidable force, renowned for their discipline and adaptability. Their homeworld, Macraga, served as a beacon of order and governance, exemplifying Guilliman's vision of a structured Imperium. This foundation laid the groundwork for the Codex Astartes even before its formal creation, as the Ultramarines exemplified the principles of organization and tactical precision that would define them in the millennia to come. When the heresy shattered the Imperium, the Ultramarines found themselves at a crossroads. It was no longer just about loyalty to the Emperor. It was about survival, about maintaining their place in a galaxy teetering on the edge of chaos. Guilliman and his sons faced a stark choice: fight for the Emperor or preserve the structure and order they had worked so hard to build. Their response: cold, calculated. It would shape their future, but the question remains: did they act out of devotion, or was it all about pragmatism? The truth is, the Ultramarines' loyalty to the Emperor wasn't as clear-cut as it seemed. Guilliman's creation of the Codex Astartes was hailed as a masterpiece of war strategy. But was it a brilliant work, or a tool for control that turned the Ultramarines into mindless soldiers of the Imperium's will? The Codex didn't just define their tactics, it defined their very existence. After the flames of the heresy had died, the galaxy didn't heal, it shattered. Civil war gave way to an age of decay. The Emperor was interred upon the Golden Throne. The Astronomicon flickered. The warp storms never truly calmed. What remained of the Imperium was fractured, leaderless, and teetering on the brink of collapse. And amidst this chaos, the Ultramarines did what they always did: rebuild. But this time, rebuilding didn't just mean fortifying walls or organizing planetary defenses. Under Guilliman's surviving influence, through his writings, doctrines, and successors, the Ultramarines didn't just rebuild the Imperium, they reshaped it. They enforced the Codex Astartes with fanatical precision, not just within their own chapter, but across all successors born of their gene seed. The so-called primogenitors of the Second Founding, the Nova Marines, Howling Griffins, Genesis Chapter, and more, spread like bureaucratic spores, bringing Guilliman's order to every corner of the Imperium. And with them came the Ultramarines' vision of control. Entire sectors bowed to their doctrine, not out of love, not out of faith, but because the Ultramarines were the only ones left with the infrastructure, military numbers, and logistical might to hold the line. Their fortress world of Macraga didn't burn in the heresy. While other legions were shattered, purged, or scattered, the Ultramarines endured and expanded. But here's where the myth begins to crack. In their attempt to restore structure, they became more than just warriors. They became arbiters of compliance, guardians of bureaucratic loyalty, and the de facto architects of the Imperium's post-heresy military dogma. Countless chapters were forced into the rigid mold of the Codex Astartes, whether they wanted to or not. Dissension was labeled heresy. Creativity in warfare was frowned upon. And those who rebelled, like the Space Wolves, were treated with suspicion, or worse. So ask yourself, was this truly heroism, or was it the long shadow of Guilliman's authoritarian vision? Were the Ultramarines preserving the Imperium? Roboute Guilliman, the once proud Primarch of the Ultramarines, disappeared into the annals of history after the Battle of Thessala in 121 M31. Critically wounded by the traitor Primarch Fulgrim, Guilliman was left on the brink of death, his wounds too grievous for even the most advanced apothecarian techniques to heal. But the Emperor's grand plan for his greatest son was far from over. To prevent the death of the Ultramarines' guiding force, Guilliman was placed into stasis, locked away in a chamber on Macraga, a living relic of the Imperium's glory days. For 10,000 years, the galaxy spiraled deeper into turmoil. The Emperor lay entombed upon the Golden Throne, and the Imperium faltered without its true leader. The Ultramarines, once the backbone of the Great Crusade, had become shadowed remnants of their former glory, their power diminished over time. Other Space Marine chapters had risen in influence, and their legendary status had slowly become mythologized, until the galaxy's darkest hour arrived. Then, against all odds, Guilliman returned. When he was finally revived during the 13th Black Crusade, Guilliman emerged not as the man of the past, but as something far more formidable, a Primarch transformed. His body, though still his own, was strengthened by the newly engineered Primaris Marines, an even more powerful breed of Space Marine. The Ultramarines, once the epitome of the Imperium's old order, were now the face of a new, more desperate future, a future controlled by the cold, calculating hand of Guilliman. But the question remained, was his return a beacon of hope for the Imperium, or a dark reflection of his unwavering belief in order at any cost? Guilliman was not just the savior of the Imperium, he was the enforcer of a brutal, inflexible vision. And in the face of an ever-declining galaxy, the Ultramarines had become something far more terrifying. They were no longer merely warriors. They were the tools of his relentless vision for a galaxy shackled by rigid, unwavering control. But this new breed of warriors, the Primaris Marines, did not come without their cost. To the Imperium, they were hailed as a symbol of hope, a new generation of warriors strong enough to face the galaxy's growing threats. They were supposed to be the saviors, the Imperium's answer to its weaknesses. But, as always with the Ultramarines, there was more to their creation than mere heroism. The Primaris were not just a stronger breed of Space Marine, they were a reflection of Guilliman's vision, one rooted in the same cold, bureaucratic order that defined his entire reign. Clones of a greater, more perfect warrior, raised from birth to serve the Codex Astartes, they were the next evolution of Guilliman's military doctrine. Their strength and precision, their unflinching loyalty, came at the expense of independence and freedom. For the Ultramarines, these new warriors were not simply a means to fight. They were tools of control, a force designed to enforce Guilliman's unyielding order. The Ultramarines, once the epitome of the old Imperium, now had an entire army at their disposal, all trained under the same rigid doctrine, all bound by the same laws and regulations. This was no longer just about the battlefield. It was about the regulation of the galaxy, the enforcement of stability at any cost. The question lingered. Were the Primaris Marines truly a beacon of hope, or were they simply another cog in the grand machine of Guilliman's vision? The Imperium was not just a place to defend, it was a place to control, and the Ultramarines under Guilliman had become more than just warriors. They had become the enforcers of a new, more brutal order, one that left no room for deviation, no room for freedom. And as the galaxy slipped further into darkness, the Ultramarines' role in this galaxy-wide bureaucratic dictatorship became clearer than ever. Despite their might, the Ultramarines have always been criticized. Their dogmatic adherence to the Codex Astartes, their lack of flair and individuality, and their refusal to embrace the chaos of the galaxy make them the least heroic of heroes. Are they true paragons of virtue, or are they just the Emperor's bureaucrats with bolters? For millennia, the Ultramarines have been the epitome of order and discipline within the Adeptus Astartes. Their unwavering commitment to the Codex Astartes has been both their strength and their curse. While other chapters interpret the Codex as a set of guidelines, the Ultramarines treat it as an unassailable doctrine, a rigid framework that dictates every aspect of their existence. This strict adherence has led to a culture where individuality is suppressed in favor of conformity. The Ultramarines' identity is so intertwined with the Codex that deviations are seen not just as errors, but as heresy. This has fostered an environment where innovation is stifled and creativity is viewed with suspicion. Their tactics, while effective, are often predictable and lack the adaptability seen in other chapters that embrace a more flexible approach to warfare. Critics argue that the Ultramarines' obsession with order and structure has led them to become more bureaucratic than heroic. Their role in the Imperium is less about inspiring the masses and more about maintaining control. They are the enforcers of the Emperor's will, but in doing so, they have become the embodiment of the very bureaucracy that many despise. In a galaxy teeming with chaos and uncertainty, the Ultramarines stand as a monument to order. But is their unwavering commitment to the Codex a testament to their virtue or a reflection of a deeper flaw? In their quest to uphold the Emperor's vision, have they become the very thing they once sought to destroy? Even as the galaxy spiraled into chaos, the Ultramarines remained steadfast, their loyalty to the Codex Astartes unwavering. At the helm was Marneus Calgar, the chapter master of the Ultramarines, who epitomized this commitment. His leadership wasn't just about battlefield prowess, it was about embodying the very principles laid out by their Primarch, Roboute Guilliman. Under Calgar's command, the Ultramarines were more than just warriors. They were the living embodiment of Guilliman's vision. The Codex Astartes was their guiding light, and Calgar enforced its teachings with absolute certainty. He believed that the Codex was not merely a set of guidelines, but a sacred doctrine, ensuring the strength and unity of the Adeptus Astartes. His Ultramarines became the epitome of Codex compliance, their tactics and strategies a reflection of Guilliman's belief that only order could hold the Imperium together. But as the galaxy fractured and the Imperium's cracks grew wider, the Ultramarines were forced to face the growing chaos. Despite their unmatched discipline, their rigid adherence to doctrine became both their greatest strength and their most dangerous weakness. The galaxy was evolving, and threats emerged that required more than just predictable strategies. They needed innovation, something the Codex had long suppressed. Yet, Calgar's resolve never wavered. He led with unwavering dedication, believing that the Codex was the key to the Imperium's survival. Then, after 10,000 years, Roboute Guilliman returned, unbroken, unyielding, and with a new, more powerful breed of Space Marine at his command, the Primaris Marines. His return brought hope, yes, but at what cost? Guilliman's revival didn't just mean the return of the Imperium's greatest tactician, it meant the resurgence of his uncompromising vision. As Guilliman leads the 13th Crusade, the Ultramarines are no longer just fighting battles. They are enforcing order. The Primaris Marines, an entire new force created under Guilliman's direct command, now march to the beat of his cold, bureaucratic ideals. And as the galaxy crumbles into chaos, one question remains. Are the Ultramarines truly saving the Imperium? Or are they simply puppets of its relentless will, instruments of a vision that may have long ago outlived its original purpose? But there are whispers of a darker role the Ultramarines play. Are they the true champions of humanity, or are they simply tools of Imperial propaganda sent to maintain control, to keep the galaxy from descending into anarchy? The Codex Astartes, crafted by Roboute Guilliman, was hailed as a masterpiece of war strategy, but at its core, it is a tool of control. Its purpose wasn't just to guide battle tactics, but to ensure that no chapter, no warlord, could ever rise to challenge the Emperor's supreme authority. The Codex doesn't just dictate how they fight, it dictates how they think, how they act, and how they serve the Imperium. During the Horus Heresy, the Ultramarines remained loyal to the Emperor, but their loyalty wasn't driven by passion. It was driven by cold pragmatism. The traitor legions, many of whom were once close to the Ultramarines, embraced chaos, freedom, and rebellion. The Ultramarines, however, stood firm, not out of idealism, but because it was the logical choice to preserve their place in the Imperium. After the heresy, Guilliman's vision for the Imperium became even clearer. Order above all. His return was not just a victory, it was the rise of a new, more controlled Imperium. The Primaris Marines, born from his new, more rigid designs, were not simply hope for the future. They were a tool to ensure that no chaos, no rebellion, could ever threaten the stability of the Imperium again. Guilliman's vision was one of absolute order, and the Ultramarines were the embodiment of that vision. As we look to the future, the question remains, what does the future hold for the Ultramarines? Will they continue to be the cold, calculating enforcers of the Emperor's will? Or could they rise up from the shadows of their rigid doctrine and become something more, something truly heroic? In the end, it remains to be seen whether the Ultramarines will ever break free from their chains of control. Will they continue to be tools of the Imperium, upholding an unyielding order, or will they evolve into something greater, something more than the Emperor's puppets? Only time will tell. This report is incomplete. The truth remains hidden. But for those who seek it, the cost will be more than just knowledge. And that's the story of the Ultramarines, heroes or tools of Imperial propaganda. The truth is far more complex than the legend. But the real question remains, what will their future hold? And what does it mean for the Imperium? If you enjoyed this deep dive into the Ultramarines, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another dive into the darkest corners of the Warhammer 40k universe. And drop a comment below. What do you think? Are the Ultramarines the ultimate heroes or just pawns in a larger game? But don't go anywhere just yet. Our next video will dive into another epic chapter of the 41st millennium. Will we expose more secrets or uncover another layer of the grim dark universe? Stay tuned, you won't want to miss it.